As Aaron fights for his life in a medically induced coma, the storm of accusations against Robert intensifies, tearing families apart. Meanwhile, a desperate Charity races against time to uncover the truth about Mackenzie's disappearance, leading her down a path far darker than she could ever imagine. A hidden truth, a desperate plea, and a secret pact forged in the shadows threaten to unravel the very fabric of Emmerdale. The sterile white walls of the intensive care unit seemed to hum with a mournful silence, a stark contrast to the storm brewing just beyond its double doors. Aaron Dingle, once a vibrant force of nature, now lay utterly still, a pale ghost beneath a tangle of wires and tubes. The rhythmic beep-beep-beep of the heart monitor was the only testament to the fragile life clinging within him, each pulse a tiny victory against the encroaching darkness. A ventilator breathed for him, a mechanical breath that felt profoundly unnatural for a man who had always lived so fiercely. His head, swathed in bandages, bore the silent, terrifying testament of the extradural hematoma, the bleed on his brain that had necessitated emergency surgery. His body, bruised and broken from the fall, spoke of a struggle, a desperate plunge from the cliff's edge that had reshaped his destiny. Robert Sugden, his face etched with a raw agony that transcended mere grief, was restrained in a cold, unforgiving interview room. The harsh fluorescent lights exposed every tremor of his hands, every flicker of despair in his eyes. His cries of innocence, of love for Aaron, had been swallowed by the grim accusations of D.S. Jordan, a man whose steely gaze promised no leniency. Robert's words, "I wouldn't hurt Aaron. I love Aaron, Ches," echoed in the sterile air, a desperate, unheard plea against the rising tide of suspicion. The ghost of his past, the shadow of Katie Sugden, the unproven, whispered accusations of murder, hung heavy around him, a narrative of violence that the village was all too eager to believe. Outside Aaron's room, Chas Dingle, a maelstrom of maternal fury and heart-wrenching fear, paced like a caged lioness. Her son, her Aaron, lay teetering on the precipice between worlds. The blame, a tangible, suffocating weight, had settled firmly on Robert's shoulders. "He's alive, no thanks to you," she had spat at Robert, venom lacing her words. Her pain was a weapon, slicing through any doubt. She saw Robert's presence at the cliff as no coincidence, but rather the sinister culmination of his obsession with Aaron. The entire village, it seemed, was ready to sign Robert's condemnation. Yet, a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor of doubt rippled through Victoria Sugden, Robert's sister. She knew her brother's flaws, his capacity for dark deeds, but to orchestrate such a monstrous act against the man he claimed to love? It was a knot in her gut she couldn't untangle. "I don't know what to think," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper, caught between the fierce loyalty to her brother and the horrifying weight of the evidence. Meanwhile, back at the Dingle homestead, a different kind of anguish was unfolding. Charity Dingle, usually unflappable, was a woman on the edge. The news of Aaron's critical condition had shaken her to her core, but the chilling realization that Mackenzie was missing, and John was implicated, had ignited a desperate fire within her. The faint, rasping whisper from the cliff's base, "Charity," echoed in her mind. Mac was alive. But where? And in what state? She clutched her phone, the last, tantalizing whisper of his voice a ghostly echo. Mackenzie, weakly, Charity. That fragmented call, that desperate sound, was her compass in this unfolding nightmare. Moses, oblivious to the full horror, played with his Lego, his innocent laughter a stark counterpoint to the impending doom. The interview room felt colder than ever. D.S. Jordan, unmoved by Robert's emotional outburst, steepled his fingers. "Jordan, Mr. Sugden. Let's try this again. You claim you went to the cottage because you were worried about Aaron. Yet, 2 emergency calls were logged. One from John, alleging you were threatening him, and the other from yourself, reporting an accident. A rather convenient sequence of events, wouldn't you say?" Robert, his face a mask of furious indignation, slammed his hand on the table. "Robert, convenient? My God, man, my Aaron is dying. John is a manipulator, a psychopath. He found out about me and Aaron, a mistake, yes, but a mistake he weaponized. He lost it. He tried to kill Aaron and himself. I was trying to save him." "Jordan, and how exactly did John, a man allegedly struggling with his mental health, manage to drag Aaron, a man of considerable strength, to the cliff's edge and then throw them both over? Or, as Ms. Dingle so eloquently put it, who did the pushing?" Robert's eyes blazed. "Robert, you think I pushed them? You think I'm some kind of monster? After everything Aaron and I have been through, the love, the pain, the forgiveness. You think I would destroy that? John is obsessed. He threatened me, he threatened Aaron. He was saying these dark things to a helpline, for God's sake. He's the one who's unraveling. Jordan leaned forward, his voice a low, dangerous growl. Jordan, and funny how you're the last man standing, Mr. Sugden. Just like with Katie all those years ago. Unproven, yes, but the whispers never truly die, do they? Now, tell me about Mackenzie Boyd. Miss Dingle mentioned something about him. Did John do something to Mackenzie too? A flicker of raw, undisguised terror crossed Robert's face. He knew. He had seen John's eyes, the chilling emptiness that belied a calculated cruelty. Robert, John. He was acting strangely about Mac. He smirked. A cold, knowing smirk when I mentioned Mac leaving. He said, some people just disappear, Robert. For good. I thought he was just being vindictive. But then, after the fall, Aaron and I, we were barely clinging on. John. He looked at me. Not with anger, but with an almost serene satisfaction. He whispered, one less rival. 2 birds, 1 stone. I swear to God, he said it. He meant for us both to die. Jordan paused, watching Robert intently. There was a raw, desperate sincerity in Robert's voice that pricked at the detective's professional shield. But the evidence was damning. Jordan, we have no record of John's alleged helpline calls. No witnesses to these dark things. Only your word, Mr. Sugden. And your history. Robert buried his face in his hands, a guttural sob escaping him. He was trapped. The past had risen like a vengeful specter to consume his present. Charity, ignoring Moses's pleas for a bedtime story, was a blur of frantic energy. She replayed Mackenzie's faint, distorted message again and again. Charity. The desperation in that single word was a clawing at her soul. She had to find him. She would find him. Moses, Gran. I beat your record. But I'm tired now. Charity, good for you, love. Go to bed. Now. Moses, but. You said vigilantes don't have bedtimes. Charity froze. Vigilantes. Mac had often called himself her partner in vigilante justice during their more outlandish schemes. A chill ran down her spine. Charity, what did you just say? Moses, vigilantes don't have bedtimes. Mac says it like this, vigilantes don't have bedtimes. Charity snatched up her phone, dialing Tracy. Charity, Tracy. You said Mac seemed fine a couple of days ago? Where? Where did you talk to him? Tracy, just. On the phone. He called to say he was leaving Emmerdale, needed to clear his head. He sounded a bit off, but I just put it down to the breakup with you. Why? Charity, because he's not fine, Tracy. He's in trouble. He called me. A partial message. Sounded like he was in agony. Charity. That's all I heard. And Moses just told me something. Something Mac used to say. Vigilantes don't have bedtimes. It's a code. He used to say it when he was planning something big, something secret. He's trying to tell me something. Tracy, oh my God, Charity. You don't think. John? Charity, I don't think, Tracy. I know. Robert said John made a comment about some people just disappearing. And John and Aaron were both found at the bottom of a cliff. I'm putting the pieces together. I need to find him. Now. She hung up, her mind racing. Mac was a creature of habit. Where would he go if he was planning something, or if he was in trouble and trying to hide? Their old haunts. The deserted barn by the old mill. The abandoned cottage on the outskirts of the village. And then, a memory sparked, a conversation they'd had about a secluded, forgotten hunting lodge, deep in the woods, far from prying eyes. Mac had joked it would be the perfect hideout for nefarious activities. A cold dread settled in Charity's stomach. The waiting area was a tableau of despair. Chiz, red-eyed and defiant, clung to Patty, 50s, who looked utterly shell-shocked. Sarah Sugden, 18, her face pale and drawn, sat with Jacob Gallagher, who tried to offer comfort, his own joy at the baby scan overshadowed by the tragedy. Ches, they're keeping Robert locked up. Good. Let him rot. He did this? I know he did. Patty, Ches, we can't jump to conclusions. We don't know what happened up there. Ches, I know what happened. Robert showed up, dripping his poison, as always. He's obsessed. And now Aaron's in a coma. Victoria, overhearing, approached them, her voice trembling. Victoria, Jez, please. Robert wouldn't hurt Aaron. He loves him. He truly does. Jez, oh, spare me your delusions, Victoria. You grew up with him. You know his dark side. The way he manipulates, the way he snaps. Katie. Lee. And now Aaron and John. He's left a trail of destruction wherever he goes. You call that love? Victoria flinched, the harsh truth in Chaz's words stinging. She remembered Robert's possessiveness, his violent outbursts. But she also remembered the genuine tenderness, the raw vulnerability he showed only to Aaron. The duality of her brother was a torment. Victoria, John warned me about him. Warned me that he could be dangerous. I didn't listen. Maybe I should have. Jacob, but John's been going through some stuff too, hasn't he? Struggling. What if Robert wasn't the only one capable of losing it? Chaz glared at Jacob, but his words, simple and logical, hung in the air. John's own mental state, his dark thoughts confessed to a helpline, a fact Robert had stated, though unverified, suddenly gained a chilling relevance. Sarah, I just want Aaron to be okay. And our baby. We saw it, Jacob. So tiny. So fragile. Jacob pulled her into a hug, the scanned photo, a blurry, precious image of their future, clutched in his hand. Jacob, he'll pull through, Sarah. He has to. He has a whole life to live. And we'll have our little blob. The vulnerability of their youthful hope was a poignant contrast to the bitter despair consuming Charles. The hospital, a place of healing, felt like a tomb of broken dreams. Charity, armed with a powerful flashlight and a grim determination, plunged into the dense, ancient woods. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The trees, gnarled and ancient, seemed to watch her, their shadows lengthening like skeletal fingers. This was Mac's territory, his secret world. She pushed aside thorny bushes, scrambled over moss-covered logs, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The fear for Mac was a cold knot in her stomach, but it was fueled by a desperate hope. She pictured him, cunning and resourceful, having somehow survived. Finally, a clearing. And there it was, the hunting lodge. A dilapidated structure, its windows boarded up, its timber weathered and rotting. A sense of foreboding hung in the air, a silence that was too heavy, too unnatural. Charity, Mac? Are you in here? She pushed against the creaking, warped door. It gave way with a mournful groan, revealing a cavernous, dust-filled interior. Moonlight streamed through gaps in the roof, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air like ghostly spirits. Broken furniture lay strewn about, cobwebs draped like macabre decorations. A faint, metallic scent pricked at her nostrils. Not rust, but something organic. Something sickening. Charity, voice trembling, Mac? She moved deeper into the lodge, her flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. On the floor, near a fireplace choked with ash, she saw it. A dark, sticky stain on the rough-hewn wood. Blood. A lot of it. And scattered nearby, a few discarded items, a worn leather glove, unmistakably Mac's, and a small, silver locket, a gift Charity had given him. A gasp tore from Charity's throat. This wasn't just a hideout. This was a scene. A struggle. A brutal, violent encounter. The cold dread turned into a paralyzing terror. And then, she saw it. Partially hidden beneath a pile of rotting canvas, a shape. Too still. Too silent. Charity's breath hitched. With a scream trapped in her throat, she kicked aside the canvas. Mackenzie lay there, pale and lifeless. His eyes, wide and staring, reflected the dying light from the window. A deep, gaping wound marred his temple, and his clothing was torn, stained with dried blood. His hands were bound tightly behind his back with thick rope, and a gag, now loose, was near his mouth. Charity collapsed beside him, her wail tearing through the oppressive silence of the lodge. Charity, Mac. No. No, no, no. She touched his cold skin, desperately searching for a pulse, a flicker of life, but there was nothing. Only the chilling emptiness of death. The Charity she had heard was a dying plea, a last, desperate gasp for help. He hadn't been found in time. He had been here, tortured, abandoned, left to die. A wave of nausea washed over her. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. And the bindings. The gag. This was a calculated, brutal act. Suddenly, her flashlight beam caught something glinting beneath Mac's lifeless hand. A small, intricately carved wooden bird. A robin. It was familiar. Too familiar. It was the same kind of bird carving that John's father, a reclusive woodcarver, had made. John had one, a prized possession, that he kept in his study. Charity's eyes widened in horror. The evidence, stark and undeniable, pointed to one man. John. John, 30s, though conscious, was weak, his arm in a sling, his head bandaged. He lay in his hospital bed, an almost beatific smile playing on his lips. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes held a chillingly lucid, almost triumphant glance. He had survived. And he knew something. A nurse entered, checking his vitals. Nurse, how are you feeling, Mr. Doe? Any pain? John, weakly, but with a strange intensity, no pain. Just peace. A profound sense of release. It's done. It's all done. The nurse, used to the rambling of patients on strong medication, simply nodded and finished her checks. But his words were heavy with an unspoken meaning. As soon as she left, John's eyes darted to a small, worn leather-bound journal hidden beneath his pillow. His most prized possession. His confession. His truth. He had scrawled his version of events in it, not to clear his name, but to ensure his legacy, his twisted form of justice, would be understood. He believed he was the hero of his own tragic play, cleansing the world of those who wronged him. He reached for it, his fingers brushing the cool leather. He had been planning this for weeks, ever since he overheard Robert and Erin's whispered confessions. He had manipulated the helpline, weaving a false narrative of suicidal despair to draw Erin in, to make him vulnerable. He had always been good at playing the victim. And Mackenzie had stumbled upon his master plan. Mackenzie, tracking John after overhearing a suspicious phone call, bursts into the hunting lodge. John is there, meticulously cleaning a bloody knife. Mac sees John's sinister smile, the chilling gleam in his eyes as he studies a rough map with locations circled, including the cliff where Erin and Robert would later fall. Mackenzie, John. What the hell are you doing? John, Mackenzie. Always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. A fatal flaw, dear boy. Mackenzie lunges, but John, surprisingly strong and driven by a manic energy, overpowers him. He ties Mac up, gagging him. John, you see, Mackenzie, some people just don't know when to leave well enough alone. You were going to expose me, weren't you? Ruin my grand design. I can't have that. This isn't just about Robert and Erin. This is about purification. About erasing the impurities from this village. Mackenzie struggles, his eyes wide with terror as John raises the knife. John, and don't worry, your little girlfriend, Charity, will get a message. A very special message. From the grave. John's eyes flickered open, his expression one of disturbing contentment. He knew the journal held the key, the full, unvarnished truth of his meticulously planned revenge. A final, chilling act. Chaz and Paddy stood vigil by Erin's bedside, the sterile quiet occasionally broken by the soft hiss of the ventilator. Chaz, her fury momentarily dampened by the raw despair of seeing her son so broken, reached out and gently stroked Erin's hair. Chaz, beautiful boy. Please, please come back to me. Don't leave me. Paddy, his voice thick with emotion, he's a fighter, Charles always has been. He'll make it. Just then, Charity burst into the room, her face pale, her eyes wild with a mixture of grief and vengeful fury. Charity, voice hoarse with unshed tears and rage, they found him. Mac. He's dead. In the old hunting lodge. Chaz gasped, Paddy's eyes widened in horror. Paddy, dead? Oh my God, Charity. How? Charity, staring intently at Chaz, her voice laced with chilling certainty, not an accident, Paddy. Not a fall. He was murdered. Bound. Gagged. Left to die. And I found this. She held up the small, intricately carved wooden robin. Charity, this is a carving, isn't it? John's father. John had one. A prized possession. This belongs to John. It was clutched in Mac's hand. He was trying to tell us. He was trying to tell me. Chaz looked from the wooden bird to Charity's haunted eyes, a dawning horror replacing her initial grief. The pieces, ugly and terrifying, began to click into place. Robert's desperate pleas, John's strange behavior, the helpline calls, it all began to coalesce into a truly monstrous picture. Chaz, whispering, John. He did this? He killed Mac? Charity, voice dangerously low, he did. And I think. I think he tried to kill Aaron too. And Robert. Robert wasn't lying. John is the monster. Suddenly, Charity's phone rang. It was Victoria. Charity, into phone, impatiently, "What, Vic? I'm busy." Victoria, voice filled with a frantic urgency, "Charity, listen to me. John. He just told the nurse something. Something about peace and release, and it's done. It wasn't just the drugs, Charity. He has a journal. Under his pillow. He always writes things down when he's planning something. He's meticulous. Obsessive. He wrote about Robert and Aaron before. Please, Charity, you have to get it. It could be his confession." Charity's eyes locked with Chaz's. A cold, determined fire lit in them. Charity, into phone, "I'm on my way." Charity, her heart pounding, burst into John's room. He was still awake, his eyes gleaming with that unsettling, triumphant light. Charity, stepping forward, her voice a dangerous hiss, "Where is it, John?" "The journal. Where have you hidden it?" John, surprised by her sudden appearance, tried to feign confusion. John, weakly, "What are you talking about? I'm not well." Charity, advancing, her eyes narrowed, "Don't play innocent with me, you sick bastard. Mac is dead. And I know you did it. I saw the bird. The carving. It was in his hand. He left it for me. A message." John's composure faltered. A flicker of panic crossed his face, quickly replaced by a chillingly smug smile. John, voice stronger now, laced with a disturbing pride, "Ah, the little bird. A final flourish. He was trying to warn you, wasn't he? Foolish boy. But he never understood. This wasn't just about jealousy, Charity. This was about justice. About cleansing. Robert, Aaron, Mac. They were all impurities. And now, they are gone." Charity lunged for his pillow. John, despite his injuries, let out a surprisingly powerful shout, trying to push her away. "John, no. You can't. That's mine. My truth." A brief, desperate struggle ensued. Charity, fueled by rage and grief, overpowered him. She snatched the journal from beneath the pillow. Just as she pulled it free, a nurse and a doctor, 50s, rushed in, alerted by John's shouts. "Nurse, Miss Dingle. What are you doing? You can't be in here. Doctor, Mr. Doe, are you all right?" Charity clutched the journal to her chest, her eyes blazing. Charity, pointing at John, "This man is a murderer. He killed Mackenzie. And he tried to kill Aaron and Robert. This journal, it's his confession." John, pale but still defiant, glared at Charity, his eyes filled with a chilling, unrepentant hatred. John, shouting, his voice raw, "You'll never understand. They deserved it. All of them. Robert. He ruined everything. And Aaron. He chose him. And Mackenzie. He was a parasite. A virus. I merely expedited their departure." The doctor and nurse exchanged horrified glances. John's words, delivered with such cold conviction, were deeply disturbing. D.S. Jordan sat across from Robert, his expression unreadable. "Jordan, Mr. Sugden. We have some new information. A journal. Found in John Doe's room." Robert's head snapped up, a flicker of desperate hope in his eyes. "Robert, the helpline. He wrote everything down. I told you. He's crazy." Jordan pushed the journal across the table. Robert picked it up, his hands trembling. He flipped it open, his eyes scanning the tightly written pages. The words, John's chillingly detailed account of his master plan, his obsession with purification, his calculated manipulation of the helpline, his brutal murder of Mackenzie, and his intentional act of pushing himself and Aaron off the cliff, all laid bare. John had even meticulously outlined how he planned to frame Robert, sowing seeds of doubt in everyone's minds. He was convinced he was untouchable, a clever architect of destiny. The entry describing Mackenzie's murder was graphic, cold, devoid of remorse. He described the satisfaction of silencing Mac's judgmental gaze, and how he had left the wooden bird carving as a signature, a twisted boast. Robert's face drained of color as he read, the horror of John's depravity washing over him. The realization that he had been so close to death, that Aaron was fighting for his life, because of this calculating monster, was almost unbearable. But then, a wave of profound relief washed over him. He was innocent. The truth, however horrific, was finally out. "Jordan, quietly, we've also had an anonymous tip regarding the location of the hunting lodge. And a body has been discovered. Mackenzie Boyd. Cause of death appears to be blunt force trauma. The wooden carving found with him. We're matching it to John Doe's possessions." Robert looked up, tears streaming down his face, not of sorrow, but of a gut-wrenching validation. "Robert, he killed Mac. The monster. He killed him. And he tried to kill Aaron. And me." Jordan nodded, his expression softening slightly. "Jordan, it appears, Mr. Sugden, that you were telling the truth. You are free to go." Robert stood, feeling the weight of the handcuffs lift, but the heavier weight of the truth settled in. He was free, but Aaron was still fighting. Robert rushed back to Aaron's room. Chaz, Patty, and Charity were there. Chaz, her face tear-streaked, looked at Robert with a new, agonizing understanding. Chaz, voice choked with shame and regret, "Robert. I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. I believed the worst." Robert looked at her, his anger dissolving into shared grief. "Robert, it's okay, Charles, we all did. John. He's a master manipulator." He looked at Aaron, his love a tangible force in the sterile room. He reached out and gently clasped Aaron's hand, the touch impossibly soft. Robert, whispering to Aaron, his voice breaking, "I'm here, love. I'm here. John can't hurt you anymore. We found the truth." Charity, her eyes still raw with the fresh wound of Mac's death, approached Robert. Charity, her voice a low, fierce growl, "He won't get away with this, Robert. John. He will pay. For Mac. For Aaron. For everything." Robert, his gaze fixed on Aaron, "He will. But right now, all that matters is Aaron. He has to wake up. He has to." The scene zooms in on Aaron's face, still, pale, utterly unresponsive. The ventilator breathes for him, a constant, mechanical reminder of his tenuous hold on life. Robert sits beside him, holding his hand, his head bowed, whispering words of love and encouragement. Chaz is on the other side, tears silently streaming down her face, a silent prayer forming on her lips. Charity stands slightly apart, a silhouette of grim determination, a silent vow of vengeance burning in her eyes. The rhythmic beep-beep-beep of the heart monitor is the only sound, a relentless, anxiety-inducing melody. Suddenly, a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor ripples through Aaron's hand. Robert's head snaps up, his eyes widening with a flicker of desperate hope. He squeezes Aaron's hand. Robert, whispering, urgently, "Aaron? Aaron, can you hear me?" The tremor is gone, replaced by stillness. Was it hope? Or just a phantom of his desperate imagination? The camera lingers on Aaron's face, leaving the question hanging in the air. Will Aaron wake up? Will he remember what truly happened on that cliff? And what terrifying secrets does John's journal still hold, yet to fully unravel the intricate web of deceit and destruction he has woven in Emmerdale? The shadows lengthen, and the echoes of betrayal promise a long, dark night ahead. As Emmerdale grapples with the brutal truth of John's reign of terror, a newly awakened Aaron faces a terrifying battle with memory and trauma. Robert, battling his own demons, becomes a target once more, while Charity's grief for Mackenzie transforms into a chilling pursuit of John's hidden secrets, leading her to uncover a sinister network far beyond the village's borders. The faint tremor in Aaron's hand had been a fleeting phantom, a cruel tease of hope in the suffocating stillness of the ICU. Days had bled into a week since the discovery of John's journal and the horrifying confirmation of Mackenzie's murder. The hospital room, once a chamber of desperate prayers, now held a different kind of tension, a vigil fueled by exhaustion and the gnawing fear that Aaron might never truly return. The beep-beep-beep of the heart monitor persisted, a relentless drumbeat against the silence, but the ventilator still hummed, breathing life into a body that refused to breathe for itself. Robert Sugden, haggard and hollow-eyed, rarely left Aaron's side. The initial relief of his exoneration had quickly given way to a crushing guilt. He had survived, but at what cost? Aaron, the love of his life, lay broken because of a mistake they had shared, a secret John had twisted into a monstrous weapon. He held Aaron's hand, tracing the faint lines on his knuckles, desperate for a sign, any sign, that the man he loved was still in there, fighting. He whispered stories of their past, of laughter and shared dreams, desperately trying to anchor Aaron to the living world. The ghost of John's chilling grin, his words one less rival. Two birds, one stone, haunted Robert's waking hours and invaded his fitful sleep. Charles Dingle, 50s, her face etched with profound weariness and regret, watched Robert from a distance. The shame of her accusations against him, the depth of her misjudgment, was a bitter pill. She had allowed her pain and history to blind her, painting Robert as the villain when the true monster lurked in plain sight. Her son was a victim, not just of a fall, but of a calculated, sadistic mind. The thought of John's meticulous planning, his twisted justifications laid bare in the journal, sent shivers down her spine. The wooden robin, now police evidence, loomed in her memory, a symbol of a friend's dying message and a murderer's chilling pride. Meanwhile, a fire, cold and relentless, burned in Charity Dingle's, 40s, eyes. Mackenzie, 30s, was gone. Murdered. And the world suddenly seemed a much darker, colder place without his irreverent charm and cunning wit. The image of him, bound and broken in that desolate lodge, was burned into her mind, fueling a thirst for vengeance that transcended mere justice. John's confession, explicit and unapologetic in the journal, spoke of purification and erasing impurities. But something nagged at Charity. John was deranged, yes, but the meticulousness, the cold calculation. It felt almost too organized for a lone wolf. A chilling thought began to take root in her mind. Had John acted alone, or was there something, or someone, else pulling the strings from the shadows? The night hung heavy in Aaron's room. Robert, dozing fitfully in a chair, was jolted awake by a sudden, frantic series of beeps from the heart monitor. Aaron's body twitched, violently, his eyes fluttering open. He gasped, a raw, guttural sound, his body fighting the ventilator, struggling to breathe on his own. Robert, leaping to his feet, terrified but hopeful. "Aaron? Aaron, can you hear me?" Nurses and a doctor rushed in, a flurry of controlled chaos. They quickly assessed the situation, adjusting settings, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. "Doctor, he's fighting the ventilator. His brain activity is increasing. He's emerging from the coma." A wave of euphoria washed over Robert, quickly followed by a terrifying anxiety. What would Aaron remember? What trauma would this awakening bring? Jez, rushing in, Patty close behind her, tears of joy and fear mingling. "My boy. Aaron." Aaron's eyes, unfocused and bewildered, darted around the room. He saw Robert, then Chez, his gaze lingering on each face, a flicker of recognition, then confusion. He tried to speak, but only a choked, raspy sound emerged, his throat raw from the tube. "Doctor, his vocal cords will be very sensitive. We need to extubate him carefully. He's going to be disoriented. We'll keep him sedated for a while, but this is a significant step." Hours later, the ventilator was removed. Aaron lay propped up, breathing shallowly on his own, an oxygen mask providing support. His eyes, though still clouded with confusion, held more focus. Robert, gently, taking Aaron's hand. "Aaron. It's me. Robert. You're in the hospital, love. You had an accident. But you're safe now. John. He can't hurt you." Aaron's eyes widened, a flicker of terror flashing through them at the mention of John's name. He struggled to speak, a raw, agonized sound escaping his lips. "Aaron," whispering, hoarsely, fragmented, "Cliff. Falling. Cold. John. Laughing." His eyes squeezed shut, a low moan escaping him as a torrent of fragmented, terrifying images assaulted his mind. The cliff's edge, John's manic grin, the sickening lurch as they fell, the bone-jarring impact, the icy water. And then, John's face, looming over him, a sinister satisfaction in his eyes, whispering words Aaron couldn't quite grasp. Jez, rushing forward, her voice trembling. "What did he say, son? What did John say to you?" Aaron just shook his head, a single tear rolling down his temple. The memories were too raw, too terrifying, too broken. The trauma had left him with a terrifying, fragmented reality, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. He was awake, but he was not yet whole. Robert, needing a moment of fresh air, stood in the hospital garden, trying to compose himself. Aaron was awake, but the road to recovery would be long and painful. Just as he closed his eyes, a voice, low and menacing, shattered his peace. Voice, off-screen, from behind a hedge. "You think you're free, Sugden? Think again." Robert spun around, his heart pounding. A shadowy figure, tall and cloaked in a dark hoodie, emerged from behind the dense foliage. Only their eyes were visible, cold and utterly devoid of emotion. Robert, voice tight, "Who are you? What do you want?" Shadow, voice distorted, almost mechanical, "Justice. For John." He was a visionary. "You, Robert Sugden, are merely a blight." He saw it. "And now, so do we." Robert's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about John's individual madness, thought Robert. John is a murderer. A psychopath. He killed Mackenzie, he tried to kill me and Aaron. Shadow, a chilling chuckle, so the official narrative goes. But John understood things. Deep truths. About the rot. And you, Sugden, are a festering wound on this community. His work. It will be continued. The figure stepped closer, and Robert saw a glint of metal in their gloved hand. Not a weapon, but a small, intricately carved wooden bird. A robin. Identical to the one Charity found with Mackenzie. Robert, his voice trembling, you're one of them. John's followers? Shadow, a cold, hard stare, we are the unseen. The hands that guide the truth. John was merely the instrument. The beginning. You, Robert Sugden, are still on our list. Watch your back. And watch Aaron. Because some wounds. They never truly heal. The figure vanished as swiftly as they appeared, melting back into the shadows of the hospital grounds. Robert stood frozen, a cold dread seeping into his bones. This was far from over. John wasn't just a lone, deranged killer, he was part of something darker, something organized. And Robert, despite his exoneration, was still very much a target. Charity sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, maps, and cryptic notes. John's journal lay open, its chilling words a blueprint for madness. But as she reread them, a new, terrifying pattern emerged. John hadn't just written about his own delusions, he'd referenced an obscure online forum, a dark corner of the internet where he found like-minded individuals. He spoke of their shared vision in the Great Cleansing. Charity, muttering to herself, the unseen hands. The architects of truth. What the hell is this, John? You weren't just crazy. You were part of a cult. She grabbed her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She found the forum John had referenced. It was hidden deep within the dark web, requiring specific access codes. Mac, with his tech-savvy and knack for illicit activities, would have known how to get in. A fresh wave of grief washed over her, mingled with a burning resolve. She had to do this for him. After hours of painstaking effort, drawing on scraps of information from John's journal and her own street smarts, she managed to gain partial access. What she found sent a chill down her spine. The forum was a hub for radical, extremist ideologies, filled with chilling rhetoric about purification, eliminating the weak, and restoring order. John wasn't an anomaly, he was a symptom of a much larger, more dangerous disease. And his victims, Robert, Aaron, Mac, were merely chosen targets in a twisted, grander scheme. A specific post caught her eye, dated weeks before the Cliff incident. It was an anonymous message, but the language, the specific turn of phrase, mirrored John's own entries. It spoke of a test run in Emmerdale, a trial cleansing to gauge the effectiveness of their methods. The post ended with a chilling instruction, leave a sign. A symbol of our purpose. The robin sings for truth. Charity, whispering, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and fury, the robin. It wasn't just John's signature. It was theirs. They sent him. They orchestrated this. She printed out the damning evidence, her hands shaking. This was bigger than John. Much bigger. And now, she was in too deep. She was no longer just seeking justice for Mac, she was uncovering a vast, unseen network of extremism, reaching far beyond the peaceful facade of Emmerdale. She was no longer just an avenging lover, she was a target. Ches sat beside Aaron, watching him sleep fitfully. The doctor had warned them about post-trauma amnesia and the potential for psychological scarring. Aaron might never fully recover his memories of the fall, or he might remember them in agonizing, disjointed flashes. Ches, to Patty, her voice thick with emotion, I keep replaying it, Patty. Every word I said to Robert. Every accusation. I called him a murderer. I called him obsessed. And all this time. John was the one. The real monster. How could I have been so blind? Patty, gently, putting an arm around her, Ches, you were worried about your son. You were scared. John manipulated everyone. He's a master at it. Don't blame yourself. Ches, shaking her head, but I should have seen it. I know John. I've seen his darkness before. And Robert. He truly loves Aaron. I threw him to the wolves. Suddenly, Aaron stirred, his eyes snapping open. He looked at Ches, his gaze clear, but filled with a profound, unutterable sadness. Aaron, whispering, his voice still hoarse, but with a horrifying clarity. Mum. The fall. Before that, John. He made me. He made me choose. Chaz leaned in, her heart pounding. Chaz, choose what, son? Aaron's eyes welled with tears, his voice barely audible, thick with a deep, personal shame. Aaron, he had me. Trapped. In a cottage. Before the cliff. He had Robert's old phone. He played me something. A recording. Of Robert. Talking about leaving Emmerdale. Leaving me. Said he never truly loved me. Said I was just a phase. And then John. He offered me a choice. Take a syringe. No pain. Drift off. Or face the truth. And then Robert would be free. Free of me. He said. If I couldn't be his, I couldn't be anyone's. Chaz gasped, a horrifying understanding dawning on her. John hadn't just pushed them, he had psychologically tortured Aaron, exploiting his deepest fears and insecurities about Robert's love. The choice he offered was a death sentence, subtly delivered. Chaz, horrified, oh, my God, Aaron. He made you believe Robert didn't love you? He made you think you should die? Aaron just nodded, tears silently streaming down his face, the agony of that choice, that betrayal, etched onto his features. The physical wounds were healing, but the psychological scars were fresh, deep, and bleeding. D.S. Jordan, armed with a new warrant and a chilling array of evidence from John's journal and Charity's discoveries, confronted John in his holding cell. John, no longer the weak, injured patient, sat with a disconcerting calm, an almost ethereal smile on his lips. He knew he was caught, but there was no remorse, only a strange, cold pride. Jordan, slamming the journal on the table, John Doe. We have the full details of your plan. The murder of Mackenzie Boyd. The attempted murders of Aaron Dingle and Robert Sugden. The psychological torture. The online forum. Your great cleansing. John chuckles, a dry, rasping sound. Ah, the truth. So much uglier when it's laid bare, isn't it? But you misunderstand, detective. I wasn't just part of a network. I was merely a humble gardener. Tending the seeds. Watching them grow. The soil, you see, was already fertile. Jordan leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. Jordan, who are the others, John? The unseen hands? The ones who gave you the Robin symbol? The ones who encouraged your delusions? John's smile widened, a truly terrifying sight. His eyes, devoid of humanity, held a chilling triumph. John, whispering, almost lovingly, they are everywhere, detective. Watching. Waiting. They are the whispers in the wind. The shadows in your peripheral vision. You think you've caught me? You've merely removed a single branch. The roots. The roots run deep. And they are spreading. He held up his cuffed hands, flexing his fingers slightly. John, the robin sings for truth. But sometimes, detective, the truth is far more unsettling than the lie. You think Emmerdale is safe? He chuckles, a truly sinister sound. You have no idea what's coming. Just then, two burly prison officers entered the cell. Officer, time for transfer, Doe. High security psychiatric unit. John stood up, a chilling grace in his movements, despite his injuries. He looked at Jordan, a final, unsettling challenge in his eyes. John, remember my words, detective. The unseen. They are always watching. And they never forget. Robert Sugden. He's still on their list. And Aaron. His awakening is merely a new beginning. For them. As John was led away, his chilling words echoed in the holding cell. Jordan watched him go, a cold knot of dread tightening in his stomach. This wasn't just a simple case of a deranged killer. This was the tip of a very dangerous iceberg. The room is dim, only the faint glow of the monitors illuminating Aaron's sleeping face. Robert sits beside him, still holding his hand, the weight of John's chilling threat heavy on his mind. He glances at the window, a flicker of paranoia in his eyes, imagining unseen eyes watching them from the darkness outside. Charity is in the Dingle house, her laptop screen illuminating her determined face. She's deep into the dark web forum, her fingers poised over the keyboard. She clicks on a hidden message, revealing a list of names. Not just one or two, but dozens. Spread across the country. And the name at the very top of the list, encrypted but tantalizingly close to being deciphered, sends a jolt of pure terror through her. It's someone from within Emmerdale. Someone they know. The camera slowly pulls back from Emmerdale village, the familiar lights now appearing small and vulnerable against the vast, encroaching darkness. A cold wind whistles through the trees, carrying with it the unsettling whisper of unseen threats. A lone, dark figure, perhaps the shadow from the hospital garden, watches from a distant hill, a small wooden robin clutched in their hand. The sense of peace that Emmerdale once knew is shattered, replaced by a pervasive fear. John may be behind bars, but his sinister legacy lives on. Aaron's fight for recovery, Robert's new peril, and Charity's dangerous quest to expose the hidden network have only just begun. The village is no longer just a place of familiar faces and everyday dramas, it is now a battleground, caught in the terrifying grip of unseen forces, their motives dark, their reach unknown. The whispers of the unseen have begun, and Emmerdale will never be the same.